Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new race creation from me, and this is Cutting Coroners GP. Now this is basically a variation of the regular Cutting Coroners track, which is made by Rockstar, and it's got some slightly different sections. It's a bit more involved and it's generally a bit better for racing. So it's a 16 player race as with all the rest of my races, and this is the original Cutting Coroners made by Rockstar. That's what you're all familiar with from my testing videos, and this is Cutting Coroners GP. As you can see, there's a little bit of a new section on the left, a new section sort of on the bottom right, but in general it's about the same in terms of the layout. So this is kind of the hub of Cutting Coroners. This is where all the triggers are for Cutting Coroners, the original Cutting Coroners GP, and a few others that we'll be talking about later on in this video. And this is where the grid is. So the grid has moved from the right hand side to the left hand side just to avoid all the problems with cutting over there with the with lampposts and things like that. And with it being a 16 player grid, it's a large grid as well, in a 2x2 formation. So it's more like a GP start, and vans and utility vehicles and all that kind of stuff are allowed on here. So on the normal Cutting Coroners, you would normally come down here and follow that road along under the bridge. Whereas instead, on Cutting Coroners GP, which is the new track, you turn left right there and go round and meet up back to the road where it was, which is a bit more involved. So this is basically your first corner. Now there are barriers on the inside there, and that is, you're going to see that a lot throughout the course of this this video and this track. It's made with a little bit of a different philosophy to my other tracks. As you can see, a barrier there on the right hand side and a barrier further up as well. Now basically what that does is stop people going on the sidewalks, and that is something that I've definitely included a lot more on this track. And that's the philosophy that I've gone with this, is to keep people when they're racing on the road at all times. Because obviously, as you know, probably, the best lines around a lot of the tracks on GTA are going up on those sidewalks. Now this is stopping that. So as you can see there's a barrier underneath the bridge. I hope you can see that just at the top. And that stops people getting a wider line into this corner. So this becomes pretty much your second real corner, and there's barriers across here to stop people going on the sidewalks. Now the benefit of this, there is an added benefit, and that's that it covers off the lampposts. So obviously, in normal races, if someone's in front of you, the chances are they might hit a lamppost, and that will mess up a good few people behind where it falls, and there's a lot of debris on the track. But these barriers that are meant to also stop people going on the sidewalks also help with not having lampposts get knocked over. So it's much better for racing as well. Chances of you running into any problems because of fallen lampposts are a lot slimmer on this circuit. So as you've seen there, this bit follows the regular Cutting Coroners as normal, but obviously the differences there are with the barriers in certain places to stop you from going on those sidewalks and to stop the lampposts from being knocked over. But this is just basically the same as the regular Cutting Coroners so far. Again, we go under the hospital as normal. Now on the normal Cutting Coroners, you would come out of the hospital and turn right and go back up along the straight towards the start line. But instead on this track, you don't. You turn the opposite direction and you basically go the opposite way. And that's because at the end of that little section, there is a nice long hairpin. So you come all the way down here. It's a nice left-hander out of the hospital as well. And then you come down here, and because of the barrier on the left-hand side, this section becomes a little bit of a kink to the right. And that really, it's a really interesting little corner to have. And then you come out of there, down this little section. Again, you can't go too wide on the sidewalks because of that barrier, and you come around this hairpin here. Now obviously this is quite a tricky hairpin. It does take a lot of time getting used to it, finding the right line. It's a lot more involved than anything on the normal Cutting Coroners. Again, a barrier on the left there to stop you cutting across that corner there. You basically, on this track, you have to stay on the road at all times. As long as you stay on the road, you'll be fine. And that's the whole point, that's the whole philosophy that this track was created with, to make people stay on the road. All the areas where barriers currently are, on the sidewalks where you might think, why is the one there? That's because on the regular Cutting Coroners, that is a line to get much more speed. For example, on the left here, as you can see, there's barriers there. Again, it stops the lamppost from being knocked over, but it was also a line that people would take to get more speed around this corner. Again, they would cut in on the inside there, whereas that's cut off now. and again on the exit of this corner on the left hand side. So all of those areas where going on the sidewalks would give you more speed and better lines around corners are all completely cut off on this track. It's a much more involved track than the regular Cutting Coroners. It's a little bit longer, as we'll see, and it should provide a much better a much better place to have a good old proper race. You know, it's more involved than the regular Cutting Coroners, and I do want to have just a bit of a public service announcement at the moment. The track name is Cutting Coroners, as in coroner who looks after dead people. You know, it's a play on words, and it goes in with the blurb as well. The name of this track isn't Cutting Corners, and that is something that a lot of people misunderstand. The name of the original track isn't Cutting Corners, it's Cutting Coroners. I just wanted to put that out there because a lot of people do get that wrong and think the name of the track is called Cutting Corners when it just isn't. So yeah, basically, you know, on this track, all of the corner cuts, you know, even though it's not called that, all of the corner cuts that are on the regular track are completely removed. Any chance to go on the sidewalks and get more speed is all completely removed. You can't just fly around a corner and use the sidewalk to give you that extra bit of a buffer. You have to actually brake and work your way around the track, figure out what kind of speed you can take around the corners, because if you go too fast you will be hitting a barrier. And you know, I mean, that is the same if you go too fast on a normal track, you'll hit the wall. But the idea that you can use the sidewalks generally just makes it a lot easier to get around these tracks. All of the corners are a lot wider. You can go around a lot more corners at full speed on a lot of tracks just because the sidewalks are there to be used. So this is restricting you a lot. You can't use those sidewalks, you have to stay on the road. And that's basically the whole philosophy that I've gone to with creating this track. That's what I wanted to introduce, and I might consider introducing that sort of thing in future tracks that I make on next gen as well. So yeah, this is kind of just a slow lap around the track just to give you an idea of what it's like. Obviously, you know, showing the barriers, showing the areas where you can't get across, and then we'll see 2 quicker laps just as we go along. But this is kind of a little bit different to the original testing track that I'm doing all my fully modded testing on, because, you know, after going to my crew, just having a bit of a chat about the track, I realized that original testing track, whilst it was perfect for getting the best out of a car and, you know, testing a car in every single aspect of its abilities, it wasn't the best when it came to actually racing. There were some choke points, there were some areas that just didn't work in a racing environment, and that's why I've changed it up to look a bit like this. All of my testing will still be on that original track that we saw in one of the online racing episodes, but this is the track that you guys can race. So obviously, you know, this is available for Xbox 360 and PS3. You can download this now and give it a go. It should be quite interesting for you guys to have a go on it. Again, it is 16 players. Just give it a try. Let me know what you think about it, and if it's better than the original Rockstar version of this race. So because I haven't done it already, whilst you're watching sort of the high speed laps around the track, I'll give you the description for the circuit. Premier car testing track Cutting Coroners has been reimagined and recreated into a full-blown Grand Prix style circuit. Slightly more complex and with a few additions to keep you off the sidewalks, this is for the hardcore racers out there. This track also provides an even better proving ground than its original counterpart, testing every aspect of a driver's capabilities. And that's the whole process. You know, I initially created the original Cutting Coroners GP to test all the new cars on and be a much better testing ground for that. And this has evolved from that to be a much better racetrack than the original Cutting Coroners itself. It is a little bit longer as well, as we'll see. It just provides a much better racing environment for a proper good old race than the original Cutting Coroners. You know, the original Cutting Coroners is a popular track, and it's a track that I quite liked. But it just wasn't involved enough to really have a serious race on, whereas this definitely is. So this is going to be sort of debuted, I guess you could say, on the next round of the multi-class endurance championship that I'm hosting, and that the last video was on. Obviously that was on Los Santos Grand Prix. The next round, which is tomorrow, the Sunday at 6 PM UK time, I'll be live streaming that on Twitch. That will be on this circuit, and we'll be racing in compact cars, so prairies and dilettantes. But yeah, that will be the first sort of major event on this circuit, the first time it's been raced on properly, I guess you could say. So I hope you all tune into that as well, because it should be interesting to see how the circuit copes with 16 players on going around it for a full hour. So as we finish up this final quick lap, the next thing that you're going to see is a comparison between this circuit and the regular cutting corners. Obviously the regular cutting corners you guys will probably all know from all my testing videos, and this circuit is around, in a supercar, it's around 15 or 16 seconds per lap longer. So it's a bit more, as I said, it's a bit more involved. But on the left hand side you'll see the new track, Cutting Coroners GP, and on the right hand side the original. Obviously it starts the same but it changes pretty quickly, and then we'll be pausing the sections where it is a little bit different. And this first section, it is about 5 seconds slower. So we reach the same point on this right hander about 5 seconds later on the Cutting Coroners GP version. But you'll also see on the right hand side the areas where people will go on the sidewalks which have been cut off. So I haven't really pushed these laps, but I've kind of taken the lines that are common to the regular cutting corners, and that's why you'll see sort of some different lines around here going on the sidewalks, and those are the kind of lines that have been cut off from the regular track. So again, coming out of the hospital is the next change. Obviously we'll pause it there, and this section is about 11 seconds slower. So again, we reach the same point as the regular cutting corners on Cutting Coroners GP, around 11 seconds later than what we would have done if we entered that point at the same time. And then again, this bit's just the same, but you'll see on the right hand side we take a much different line by going on the sidewalk, cutting across the inside, and then putting it right out wide again. That's all restricted on the Cutting Coroners GP version. So that's just a little comparison, and also with this I will be releasing every single testing track that I've done all my tests on as well. So obviously Cutting Coroners GP is the main attraction of this video, but there is a playlist which called the Cutting Coroners Collection, and that will include all of the tracks that I've used. So the first one is Cutting Coroners Air. Now that is the track that I used to test all the planes and the helicopters. It kind of resembles Cutting Coroners in how you race on it. The next one is Cutting Coroners Sea. Again, the sea track that I used to test all the boats in that video, that is the same sort of resembles Cutting Coroners as best that it can. And then the final one is called Cutting Coroners Plus. Now that is basically exactly the same as the regular Cutting Coroners, but it allows for vans, it allows for utility vehicles, and it allows for 16 players. And cycles as well. So those are the 3 tracks that I've basically used all my testing for on the original videos, and you can now play them. If you click in the top right, when you click the playlist link, you can add the playlist to your game, but remember you can also add each individual job to your game at the bottom there as well. So 4 different jobs for you to play, 4 different races for you to play. Obviously Cutting Coroners GP is the main attraction, definitely go try that out. But you can also try all the other stuff as well. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. I really appreciate all your support as always. Hopefully you enjoyed these tracks. Let me know what you think about them down below. Be sure to tune in on Sunday for the debut of Cutting Coroners GP as part of the Multi-Class Endurance Championship. And thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you next time.